I wanted to show you this graph because there's a lot of misconception in the property market. One of the key things is that foreigners, there's a theory out there that foreigners are pushing prices up, and that's simply not true. And the reason I say that is because a foreigner, someone who does not have Australian citizenship or a permanent residency visa and living overseas, cannot buy a established Australian property. Under our rules, they must buy a brand new property, either an apartment or build a house. So they're not going to auctions in your local area and buying up properties at ridiculous prices because they legally can't. If you are seeing someone who looks like a foreigner at a local auction, chances are they are a new Australian, not a foreigner. And they are en masse, they're coming, our migration is very strong, but they are not foreign investors. Now, foreign investors have been critical in our market for years and usually average about 5,000 to 6,000. But there was a surge in the late 2000s where we saw up to 30,000 foreigners buying properties. Now, where that worked well is they were buying the apartments, particularly in Melbourne and Sydney, and they were bringing mass new stock into the market, probably too much for that matter. But what it did do is it created a large rental stock, it took a lot of pressure off and kept rents very affordable. Now, what we've seen since that occurred is the state governments have said, hey, that's a golden goose. Let's go and raid that cash at federal and state level. And you can see the costs now of buying property are escalating all the time. Now, for foreigners, they're paying 7 to 8% additional stamp duty over and above the normal stamp duty that all of us investors pay, foreigners and locals, of around 3 to 5% depending on where you buy. Now, again, if you think about it, this is 3 to 5% of the current pricing. And prices in Australia have moved upwards regularly over the last 10, 15, 20 years. So if you think about it again, it's the government that is making home ownership more expensive for both owner-occupiers and investors because they're leaving stamp duty rates at their current levels, but on higher and higher and higher prices, meaning the stamp duty on entry is going up and up and up to crazy levels. If they were serious about making it affordable, they could reduce it as a percentage on the higher amount and keep it at a similar level. Furthermore, the only way we can help the property market and the rental market is by bringing in new stock. And what a lot of people forget in Australia is that stamp duty is there for everything we buy, but anything that is newly built from a developer also has GST in the price. Now, the average is about another 6, 7%. So if the state governments really, really cared about affordability, they should probably only take either stamp duty or GST. So they could, for example, exempt any brand new property from stamp duty because they're already collecting 6 to 7% GST in that purchase price. So that would be a big step in the right direction. But all of these things are making it more and more expensive for foreign investors, and it's no coincidence that we are having a rental supply crisis in Australia when they have attacked a significant contributor of quality rental stock investment in there. Thankfully though, if you are an Australian citizen or a permanent resident living in or out of Australia, you are not paying these foreign surcharges. There's usually some confusion as to whether or not Australians living abroad have to pay it, and they do not. But you can see it's very expensive now for a foreigner to invest, and we need to encourage that investment if we are going to get rents and affordability there. The fact that they're not giving them any concession, the fact that they're charging them more and more, actually helps every other Australian property investor because they're sitting on the sidelines and we're going to keep lack of supply for an ongoing basis.